Hello and welcome to another episode of Talking Offstage. Today, me and Aaquib are joined with the most charismatic Thomas Davis, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, Tom. How are
Hey,
you?
what's up, guys? What's up? What's up?
And,
How's it going, dude?
Going good, going good.
The most interesting fact about Tom is that Tom has a brother named Jerry. This is a
Yes,
fact.
this is.
What is the story there? Who watched Cartoon Network too much?
My dad.
This is an actual
That's the worst.
truth, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
so let me put it this way. My dad wanted 2 more kids just to call them Spike and Tyke. He wanted the whole set, man. He wanted the whole set, and he was like always asking my mom, "No, we should have 2 more. We should have 2 more, just to call them Tom, Jerry, Spike and Tyke."
But wait, so is your mom that lady who's never shown on screen?
But I think the most iconic thing about Tom and Jerry was the fact that was the lion, like going in and going, wow.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
that's their
MGM
logo. That's their trademark.
Yeah.
That's what's memorable about it. That's what I said. Talking about memorable things.
Yes.
We have Thomas Davis here, who's very memorable because he runs something called House of Tea.
Yes. T
Yes.
for Tom, for
Yeah,
Thomas.
it is.
Yes.
So, what is House of Tea and why House of Tea?
Okay, so House of Tea was basically an idea that had been brewing through about maybe 6 years. Right from my college days, I've been thinking about this concept, but just never got around to doing it. And then through the 4 years that I was working with Ernst & Young, towards the end of my career over there, I was like, okay, cool. Now I'm like, let's get into this. Let's do this. This is something that is worth pursuing, at least in Chennai, because at that point there was nothing in Chennai like this. So it all started off as just an idea, and actually the brainwave came from my dad's cousin. So he has something very similar, which is just house concerts in his office once in 2-3 months. It's more like as he feels like it, he just puts
Is it
it
like
up.
a so far event?
It's a lot smaller.
But like he organizes it himself.
Yeah, but he
Okay.
organizes it. It's just him. So what he was doing was, he loves music, so he'll just get in these live acts. There is, it's I wouldn't even say a busking set because there's no money at all. So nobody pays anybody. It just goes. It's in an office space. It's in a tiny little office space, maybe about 20 by 20 room, and then they're just sitting there. There is an artist who's playing over there, and people just sit and listen to music. And it started off with just that. And then it became like people used to bring food. Then it became a potluck.
Oh.
And then people just come. So initially, when he was beginning this whole thing, there were about maybe 8 to 10 people that turned up. The last show that he did like this, there were about 70.
Whoa.
And there were people standing outside his office and watching through the windows.
So
And
cool.
I was like, what the hell?
But
I mean,
and it was purely music.
it was purely music.
This
It was
was
just nothing else. So
across,
he's an architect. So he's got this really nice office space. What he's done is he's, like I said, the 20 by 20 room, and he's just put a desk on the edge, and then there's chairs. So it's basically just an empty room with like tables in it. So he's just removed all the tables. He put the tables out. They're all those fold away, take away tables kind of thing. So he took that, got out of it, and then brought these guys in just to play music. And half the time the artist will be the same person. Like they would have played like 3-4 sets with the same guy in the same space,
Right.
and it's just I think it's just there for the love of music.
Oh, so
And like-
how long did he do this? And like when, like you said, 70 people, right? So started with like 5, 10 people,
I
70
think-
people. What was the the timeline of that?
2-3 years, I guess, maybe more than that. I'm not sure, because the thing is, there was no hard and fast date or a day that he would do this.
Right.
He was just like, today I'm feeling up for it, cool, let's do this, and
Okay.
call a band in, let's do this Saturday, and it'll be on like a Saturday night around 8:30ish.
So there was not like branding or promotion or
Nothing.
anything. It's just
It
like,
was
hey
just,
guys, come off.
There was an email, like when he started it off, it was an email blast that went to his friends alone. There was no WhatsApp at that point.
Correct, yeah.
There was
that
only
also
texting,
yeah, yeah.
like, and back then we only had like 50 messages a day and all that.
Oh, yeah,
or
yeah,
like
yeah.
not even 50 messages a day. Sorry, 100 messages a month.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then
it was worse.
Yeah, it was worse. It was way worse. So imagine sending out that many messages
Yeah, like
out. and it's
CM
like-
for
Yeah.
MSc.
yeah, it was
The best part is it's all like code.
Yeah, so it started off as what he was doing. I loved the idea behind what he was doing. And I said, why can't we transform this into something a little more bigger? Like, luckily for us, by the time I started doing this, there was WhatsApp, there was Instagram, there was Facebook, all of this jazz, so that, you know, the promotion-wise, it was easier.
Right.
I guess he had it a lot more tougher because, like I said, email blast.
No, but I feel like the concept that like he started off small and it was just like word of mouth, word of mouth, word of mouth,
it was purely word of mouth, because when he started it, like I said, it was, if I know you, I would have told you about this. There's no other medium for you to find out that this thing exists. He's not going to do posters and put it up in different places.
And that's it's such a like an interesting community to be part of. Like, because they'll be just like, when's the next one? When is the next one?
And it was more like not just when is the next one, but like, because the fact was nobody knew when the next one was, not even him. So there was, like I said, no, it was not a fixed time or a fixed date or in this month I will do this. It was just, I feel like it this weekend, I'll do it this weekend. That's what. Then I'll probably do it 4 months later. So it was, there was no this thing. So it was just, so what I realized from that is the people who are coming there are coming there purely for the music, you know, and that community vibe that they were getting with everybody else. So I was like, why don't we try the same thing, but expand the reach, you know, like get people to, like, not just in terms of coming for a show and then leaving, but also to get to know the artist, get to know the ideas behind the artist, why they started what they're doing, why are they still in it. So, which I'm sure you guys know, because what we were trying to do with the original House of Tea's venue space also was that after the artist performs a set, we have like this little questionnaire session just to get to know who the artist is. Because I realized in Chennai, if you don't know the person, it's very rare somebody will come for you. Like, unless you know them a little more personally. Now,
you need a face before you need the name.
Exactly. So you kind of need to, not just a face before the name, but it's more like, now I know you.
Right.
Which is why I come for some of your shows. Now, if I didn't know who you are, I'm not going for your shows. That's the sad reality in Chennai, though. Nobody wants to go there because it's comedy. Or nobody wants to go there because it's music. It's just,
they're like,
oh, I know you, so cool, I'll come for
correct.
your show. It's just the friend circle that turns up. It's very rare that someone outside that friend circle has come for the set.
Unless it's become a thing of like, he's so famous that now people know him.
So that's like, this is I'm talking about in terms of the amateur artist.
We are only going to be talking about amateur artists here. So you got the idea from your father's cousin. But more interesting for me is that you yourself are like an amateur artist, right?
Was.
How old were you when your uncle was doing all of this?
10th, 11th, 12th, maybe around that age.
So what do you think was your first moment where you were just like, hey, I don't want to just listen to music anymore. I also want to be like, I want to do something for music. Like, when did that happen?
Okay, so that was way later. Like, it wasn't back then. And even this whole concept of what my uncle was doing, he was doing it over there, and it was in Bangalore. I've never been for one of these. Funnily enough, I've never had that chance to go for one of these, because it's always happened, like I said, it's on a random date, nobody knows when it is, and you just like send you a mail 2 days before the show. So you can't really book a ticket immediately and run off to Bangalore just for this, you know. So, I mean, you can, but we are too lazy to do all of that.
I want to do it.
Maybe. Sorry, Sijo.
I'm on the way. Where are you? Besant Nagar. Concert is in half an hour. I'll get there.
I'm still in Hosur. Stuck in traffic.
Electronic City flyover is not built yet. I'm too early. I'm not late. So, where did you do your schooling, college, and all that?
College, I studied in Hindustan University in Paduk. Okay. That was, I guess, where my love for going for concerts started. Because, I wanted to bunk college.
What was like the first concert you bunked for?
June Rockout in 2009.
Is that
June
the
Rockout?
festival?
June Rockout is a music festival that is hosted by Unwind.
Unwind, yes.
Unwind Center.
Unwind Center, Adyar.
So back then that was, back then I think that was like probably the biggest festival that music festival you could go for in Chennai. So, especially in terms of live acts as such. So, it was a 2-day event, morning to evening, the whole day is just music.
Whoa,
Till,
morning
like,
to evening?
Yeah, by morning I mean like, let's say 2-3 in the afternoon.
I don't know why, but like imagining a music concert before sunset just sounds like a bad
idea, no?
I don't know why. Like
And
Coldplay is on stage and they have all these like lights and they're like, switch the sun off. I can't see the lights, but the sun is still on.
I guess that's why they always put that band last.
Oh yeah, the headlining.
This thing, the whole reason why this worked in Chennai here was because it was in YMCA grounds.
Oh right.
Inside, they had this amphitheater there. I don't know if it's still there. I haven't been there in ages. But they had this amphitheater which was fully surrounded by trees. Like, you know, it's like a canopy of trees over you. You can barely see sunlight.
Wow.
Well,
So
that's pretty cool.
they needed lighting during the day.
No, but like, did you meet people who are like musically inclined as you?
So in Hindustan, like the reason why I wanted to like get out of this whole thing, like I said, that's where my love for live concerts happened. Was I started managing bands in college. I started getting them shows. I started putting them, like, take them for culturals, do all the pre-work, thing, just so that you basically take that off the plate and make sure the artist just performs and nothing else.
Yeah.
So I did literally everything else till they went up on stage and finished that show and then comes out.
Right. So for people who are listening or watching, so you are one of the few, like you are one of the handful of people that I know who's managed bands. But how do you go from being a music enthusiast to managing bands? Like, do you go to them and say, hey, let me manage you, or do they reach out to you?
So
how do you get into the management?
I think the
business?
first part of like the first one or two bands that I managed was they were friends of mine. They were all like my close friend circle. So they asked for help in terms of like when we go for culturals, to register, to do all the paperwork beforehand, all of that jazz. So it was just because I was there at culturals anyway.
Right.
So I just helped them out with that. It started off with that, and then it just got evolved into something more where I was like trying to find them shows in different places, and because again, like I said, the love for music was there, the love for live concerts were there.
Right.
So, and back then recording was very, very difficult. Like unless you either have like a shit ton of cash or you have your own recording things inside your house, which most people don't. So obviously live was the only outlet for any musician. So it started off like that, and then because of the work that I was doing with that one or two bands, like then people started approaching me.
So if you're managing multiple bands, isn't that a conflict of interest?
Not necessarily, because most of these, the management back in when you're in college is for culturals. There's nothing really other than that, because not many venues in Chennai took artists who were performing in college culturals and then say, hey, listen, we'll give you a show. You know, it was that 10 minutes that you have on stage during any culturals was all you had. So in terms of conflict of interest, definitely not, because you're doing paperwork most of the time. You know, registering, finding out what are the rules for whatever show it is, making sure the band knows what it is, getting them to go for practice, which is the most difficult part of any artist. If you're listening, please go.
Practice.
Yes.
Makes you perfect.
No, practice
Actually,
makes you a professional.
Not just practice, but practice on time.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Like they're off rhythm all the time.
No, they would just not show up.
Just not. Yeah. So we would book a 3-hour session and they'll come in the last 45 minutes.
Okay.
Oh wow.
And then you're like, dude.
You guys are the worst.
Yes.
Those guys who you
That way
guys who
are
come
the
45
worst.
minutes late for practice. It's me only, but still.
You're at least saying 45 minutes. I'm talking about 2 hours and 20 minutes later.
That's it.
No, that's what
It
he
has
said. They
happened.
show up in the last 45 minutes. Not
In the last 45 minutes.
last 45
Yeah, and then it takes them half an hour just to sound check, because they're plugging it in, doing this, changing, and tuning the guitars. Oh my God, that's the worst possible thing that a musician
This is very interesting to me, because every time I've seen any guitarist go up on stage, they're tuning their guitar.
Have you noticed guitarists only decide to tune a guitar on stage?
Because it looks cool.
No, it doesn't. It looks really, really unprofessional, I guess.
No, like because all the people in the audience are going like, oh, he doesn't care.
No, I
Just
don't think.
no.
I don't
No,
think.
people are just like, please start already. It's getting boring.
No, like you know how many times I've been conned into uploading for a sound check. You know how many times? Because these guys don't music, they don't sound check. They play a song until it gets interesting. Then they're like,
and then this is a sound check.
Yeah. Then like, it's sound check. I'm like, dey, solve pandra. Like,
there was what you were speaking of, not this whole sound check and this thing. There was this band when I was in school, during school culturals. They were from PSBB Kekinagar. I don't know what the band's name was, but their
I don't know if there are multiple bands from PSBB.
No, I'm talking about like way back, like at least 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So
when they were like PS baby.
So these guys used to sound check with Guns N' Roses songs.
Wait, how do I know this?
I've told you about this before, but I don't know. So they would start off by playing Sweet Child of Mine, and it starts with the guitar lead, okay? And the whole crowd just goes bonkers. And then exactly when it hits the chorus, we'll be like, cool, they'll all just stop playing, and then they'll be like, yeah, that was our sound check. And you're like,
why?
What the rest? We were singing, please, some more.
Yeah, but there are those songs, no? Like that. It's always like an AC/DC or like a Guns N' Roses thing. It's like Highway to Hell or Stairway of Heaven. If you're a guitarist and you have a guitar and it's electric, you have to do Boney. I'm playing Stairway to Heaven. Otherwise, your guitar won't work only.
No, but that's very annoying.
It is. But the good thing about that band was like after that they were playing Metallica. So that was also fun.
Then it's fine.
If they top it, it's really
if
good.
But the sound check is better than
dude.
You're just like, oh come on, guys, really
very bad choice.
You should have switched it around. But whatever.
Yeah.
So like for House of Tea specifically, when you started out, who was like your first artist that you brought out?
This band called Kodari. So they were. It was again friends. All of this, everything related to House of Tea was started off with like a bunch of friends of mine helping me out with stuff, you know. And so Kodari, lead guitarist Savio is my classmate from school. So we've known each other for like 10, 15 years now. Nice. So maybe more, maybe about 15 years now. So I asked him, can you like do the first set? And they're a rock band, like a heavy rock band, okay? And then I was like, listen, we can't do rock because, well, it's an apartment and it's a terrace and it's a residential area. So
cut the whole... Slightly swinging.
Yeah, no. So he
slight movement.
He did the whole set in acoustic.
Wow.
And it's all his own original stuff, as in the band's original music. So it was really brilliant to listen to because like you've heard the heavy versions of it with like distortions and this thing and all that. And then you strip that whole thing down into an acoustic setup. This whole thing, I think I put it together in 2 weeks.
Wow.
The whole right from creating the logo to finding the band to setting up the venue, getting whatever we needed to put that venue up to make it look good. And so the whole thing came together in 2 weeks' time. So,
do you still continue to have that same setup, like the way that we see it today?
The initial setup that you've seen today
with
is
the
same.
And everything.
All of that was what I had from day one. From day one, it's...
The reason that I'm bringing this up is because when the first time I performed at House of Tea, when I saw the setup and I was just like, it was a beautiful setup. Yeah, that was the first immediate like this. It's so like I was about to say DUI.
Deconstructed.
Do it yourself. DIY. It was so DIY, and it felt like a very comfortable place to like just perform.
Yeah. So the idea was House of Tea is basically very, very artist centric. We are looking at in terms of like how can we get an artist into a beautiful space, put up a show, give the crowd what they want, and go back with an experience. So that's what we're looking to do. So a lot of places now are slowly trying to change it to an audience centric thing where is still
who can bring how many people.
Yeah. So we are more of we try to ask every artist to bring at least 10 people for every show. Right. I mean, I think it's a reasonable ask.
How many people came for the Kodari show?
We had about 45 for the first set. Was most of it, a lot of it consisted of family because, I kind of picked the timing also. No, I picked the timing when most of my family is abroad. Right. Most of my dad's brothers and sisters are all abroad. So I picked a time when they were all kind of in Chennai during that peak. So like most of them were there. So we picked a date based on their availability. And
I like that he's such a sweet event planner for his own family. Yeah. Like, what shall we do in this weekend? Go to Tom Uncle's house. He'll have some people playing the music.
No, but that's also the sweetest thing about your family because they've come for your shows.
Oh yeah.
So very supportive.
Oh yeah. So I think for the first 6-7 months, every single show my parents were there.
Yeah, dude.
Like every single show.
Sweet.
Like doesn't matter where it is, what time it is. Yeah. Even if they had something else planned, they kind of cancel it and come for the show. So that way, I've been blessed for sure. They've been very supportive of this whole thing right from day one till today. Even by periods where we were hemorrhaging cash.
Right.
On these shows. A lot of the shows we really didn't do much, and because a lot of it is going into the sound setup, so a lot of the money goes out straight there because we're renting the sound. So unless we at least break even, a lot of the times we don't. So even through all of that, they've been like, keep going, you will get to some of this thing. It's going to take time because Chennai is not used to this still. It's growing, it's getting there, but it's still not. It's still not a place that, like, let's say a Bangalore kind of crowd where they turn up just because it's music or just because it's stand-up.
Yeah.
And it's still like, if I am doing a show, people will come because of me.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's not like, if you don't know me, you'll never turn up for my show.
Yeah.
We're trying to change that slowly by one, getting in these like, putting 2-3 artists together on the same night.
Correct, yeah.
Which way you kind of get a cross-pollination of all your acts together, as well as people who just like music also get to listen to stand-up. Or people who come for just stand-up also get to listen to music.
Yeah.
And then you also do like this little conversation with the artists on stage where you also ask the audience to ask questions as well. We try to push the audience as well to like ask a couple of questions about the artist or what his act is, his or her act, and what they do. What do they do outside of just this? And just like, who is an artist outside that sphere of the art form that they're working on? Right. So that way, slowly, I feel that if we get to know the artist at least, even if you're not friends with the person, you might turn up for another show.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm hoping with all the crowd that turns up for all our shows. Is not just as because it's your friend who's coming, but also because you just met this guy, he did a show that on that day that you were there, and because of the questions and this thing, you'd get to know the artist a little better. That way, that friend circle kind of expands and you start getting more people to turn up for every show.
The community building exercise that you guys do for House of Tea is like very nice.
So that particular venue, that's the only thing we were looking at. We're trying to get as many people as possible together. It's probably the most accessible show because you don't pay anything, you don't register, there's nothing. You just turn up, enjoy some good whatever entertainment it was on that day. Because what we pride ourselves with that particular venue is that we never repeat an event.
Right.
We do different concepts every month. And it might borderline on, like, let's say even if it's music, we change the idea behind the music every month. So like the first set, Kodari, we did it as an originals night. So it was only originals, it was just their songs, nothing else. There was no cover songs or nothing. So they did that set. And then the very next month, we started with music because, well, you find the most amount of artists in music. And plus, because I know the circle of musicians in Chennai, so it was easier for me to get people on board. So the first night we did it as an originals night. The second time we did the show again, we did it as a cover night where only cover songs were sung.
Right.
And we did that with Ranga and
people
Georgina.
paid cover charge.
No, they didn't.
So, off funny things.
I'm kidding.
You're like, bro, just say the word. One button, I have to press that song.
But yeah, so then we did a K-pop night.
K-pop, wow.
Yeah, so we tried Korean pop music because at that time it was such a fad. Like everybody was into it.
BTS.
So many of them.
Behind the scenes.
I honestly don't know what BTS stands for, though.
Oh, it is somebody in the office told us.
Bangtai songs.
Bangtai soldier or something. Something soldier something.
We are very wrong.
It could be.
Yeah, to the BTS fans who are watching this, come for
two people.
Yeah, so we did a K-pop night where we got 2 artists to sing in Korean and 2 dance groups who dance to Korean pop music.
Whoa.
And like they pick songs from different K-pop artists and then they put a medley of songs together and then they dance.
Pretty cool, man.
It was a really cool night because we had, I think, about 55 people that turned up that night. It was mad. It was a really cool set and it was very different because one is I don't listen to K-pop. I've never heard anything of K-pop. I started listening because of this show and just to get to know what it is.
Yeah.
And I stopped after that. It's a whole different story.
K-pop? K.
Whatever.
K, thanks, bye.
But the people who are fans of K-pop, it's so like I said, we get to know every artist, right? So in the get to know the artist session that we were doing post one of the singers who sang, she has now learned to read and write in Korean.
What is her name?
Varsha.
Varsha.
Yeah. So she had learned to read, write. So then we started asking the crowd, like, you guys love K-pop so much, why? I mean, do you even understand what these guys are saying? Half those people could translate the entire song for us. And I was just like, seriously? A lot of people just learn Korean just to understand these things. And it's not just in terms of music, but also the TV shows and stuff, movies.
Yeah.
It was a mad experience for me because I didn't realize so many people were, one, into K-pop.
Right.
The second was not just into K-pop, but also into that so much that they went and learned a language for it. Just to understand what these guys are singing or saying. It was.
So Aaquib tells me you have an interesting story to share.
Oh yes.
Which one?
The call.
The call. Okay. Yeah.
I would like to
This is not the Backstreet Boys song.
I would like to present this.
Right. I did not even think of that when I called the story the call. But yeah.
I present Thomas Davis with the story, The Call.
Oh, yeah. So all this started off with, like I said, it's when I started House of Tea, there were two acts that I've always wanted to come down and perform with us at the House of Tea. The main one was this band called As We Keep Searching.
Wait,
it's
why?
Wow, dude, like you had been looking for them to perform, and they are called As We Keep Searching. Really?
Can I go?
Really? Hey,
I'm leaving.
I'm out. Hey, Aaquib, come back. Otherwise, As We Keep Searching, he cannot find you.
Oh,
yes,
God.
okay. As We Keep Searching.
Yeah. So this is, by the way, that's all one word.
Okay. Interesting.
Apparently, so it was again probably a little later in the story, but
I believe their manager, dude. Imagine if somebody calls them, they'll be like, "Actually, sir, what is the name, sir? I just want them to play."
As we keep searching.
Ouch. Okay.
As we keep playing.
Okay, can we please?
Continue. Yes.
It's a good story. Yeah.
So like I said, this was one of the main. This was the act that I wanted to, like at some point in the House of Tea's timeline that I want this band to come and play with us, and that was probably my biggest thing, because I used to go. I've seen this band live 4-5 times so far. 3 times I've gone to Pune to watch them live.
Oh damn.
The first time I went there was another act that I was. Steven Wilson was playing, so that was my main thing. These guys were also playing, so I was like really happy that I got to see both of them. The second year I went again, Steve Y was playing that. Steve Y was the headline act of the NH7, and again these guys are like the opening act for them. So the third time I went, when I saw the lineup, I was maybe one other band that I was listening, and I was like, As We Keep Searching is playing, I'm good. I booked a ticket, left, basically just to see that one band play live, and the music is very powerful. It's gotten me through like a shit ton of things at home, at at work, at this thing. So their music is so beautiful that at any point of time, even if you keep listening to it, you will still like it every single time. It's one of those kind of things. They play this genre called post rock, which is, there's not much in terms of singing. It's mostly just music in the background, and so they use a lot of elements to their music and stuff like that. So very recent, they put out a recent album. So when they finished doing the album, so before they released the music out into the world, they were like, let's do a listening session across India to promote the album, as well as just to get people's feel and feedback of
So do they just play it and listen with the others, or what's a listening session?
So a listening session is basically a bunch of people sitting in a room. There'll be a speaker in the center, and the music is just played, and you just sit and listen.
Okay.
So it's a very very different concept. It's not something.
So after each song, do they take questions, or like?
No. So apparently they tried it that way. It didn't work out because there was too much of
Back and forth.
gaps and this thing. So how he did it was, anyway, it's too far into the story.
Okay.
So before the idea behind the call is, so like I said, this was one act that I really wanted. So they were putting out posters as to the locations they were planning to do, and they had put out a story saying that if you guys are willing to host us, or if you want to work with us, you want to be our like, you know, different parts of the band, if you want to be part of any of these things, drop us a mail. And there was like this Google Sheet thing. So for their Chennai leg, I was like, I'll host you, like as House of Tea, we will host you guys, and why don't you come over? So obviously it was something that I thought was this thing, because I know they have a lot more other people here as well. They're very, very close with the band called Scrat in Chennai. So the first time they came and did a listening session was with them. So obviously it was just done because they put it out, cool, and we also add my name to the list, and I just put it out.
Take a token, wait in line, see what happens.
And more like take a lottery and hope to God it will. You know, that kind of a situation. And then 2-3 weeks before the actual this thing, so I got a call from this guy, and he calls me and says, "Hey, is this Thomas from House of Tea?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "My name is Udipan, who's the vocalist of this band." And
what?
Obviously, I thought it was a joke.
You just put him on mute and you're like,
I didn't.
Much worse.
Oh my god.
So I was like, stop fucking with me. So can you imagine, you're talking to the guy that you've always wanted to listen to this thing, and then the first thing that you tell him is stop fucking with me. And then he's like, so he actually, let me rewind it a bit more. "Hi, my name is Udi," and I was like, stop fucking with me. And he's like, "My name is Udipan, I'm from the band called As We Keep Searching." And I'm like, "I know who you are! Oh my god!" And I was, like you said, mute. Wasn't on mute. In his ears. I literally had to walk out of the house to scream. I took the phone with me, glued to my ears, and I'm going, "Wah!"
What's that?
So, I wish it was that. It was more like, you know, that total fanboy moment. When
I'm sure what happened was he cut the call and said, "I found it, guys. I found it. We don't need to keep searching."
So yeah, then we start talking, and then he's like, "Yeah, so we got your name from the list, and we thought that we can do the show with you guys at this thing." I'm like, "Yeah, gotta be kidding me! Oh my god, he's calling me! What the fuck is calling me?" Like the whole day, that was the whole day my head was just like, "Oh my god, he called me,
Give me a pun.
As we keep searching.
So yeah, so we had the conversation about how we can run this and how we can do it and all of that jazz. And so basically, probably the biggest moment of my life at that point was getting that call, and this was something I thought maybe 3-4 years down the line.
Right.
In House of Tea, maybe I can afford to bring this band in Chennai, afford to bring them in Chennai and do the set, and then when I got the call from them, I was like,
and like, my favorite thing about you talking about this band As We Keep Searching is you keep telling this, which is like, you should never meet your idols.
Yeah, so like every movie or every TV show or every this thing that you've ever heard, you always, in any scene where like someone meeting their idol for the first time, it always goes bad.
Yeah.
Like it always goes to a point where they're like, "Oh my god, that guy was an ass, or that woman was an ass," whatever, you know. But so the day of the show, when he came down, he's probably like for the level that these guys are at, because they're doing tours of Europe now. You know, they're kind of that big. Wow. From a band from Chennai doing a European tour, playing festivals in Germany and in the Scandinavian belt. They were like big acts in the Scandinavian belt, playing big acts in the festival. So they are at a certain level where, like, you know, you're like, okay, these guys are whoa. And when I spoke to him, and when he landed up home, we were sitting and having a conversation over the table, and he's probably one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And like, you know this thing where, yeah, I am a someone, like I have reached a certain level now, like none of it was there. It was like sitting across the table and talking with anybody else. Like for me, inside I'm screaming, and he's just like, we're having a really nice conversation.
Yeah, but like, but that's the thing, right? Everyone feels that the minute you are that famous, everyone just turns.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
For me and all, it's not like that. I don't need to be
because it requires fame.
We will see this 20 years down the line if he's still touched.
No, I'll still be
17
here.
ticket sales.
Hey, about 250 rupees. Worth it, okay?
I promise you. But yes, I think we are at the end of the
almost
podcast.
towards the end. But before we go, a few things. So firstly, House of Tea is firstly a great place to exhibit your art, and also a great place to go check out art. And Tom is always looking out for new talent and new people to showcase. And it's not about
Also write in the book.
Yes, write in the book. If you make it to this book, that means that you made it to Tom's radar. And like from my experience, all of House of Tea's events, they've always felt very intimate and very friendly. I don't feel like I don't feel like I feel like I got up from the bedroom and then I just got to the hall and then something is happening.
Yeah, it's all like that. The idea is to build that community and just to chill out and have some fun. I mean, you have your headaches at work, at home, whatever it is. You just come here just to have fun. You just come chill.
So what are the regular open mics right now?
We do once a month. Us or in general? Okay, us. So we do one open mic a month,
right?
Which is a general open mic. Now we started curating open mics for Novotel in Siruseri,
right?
For the crowd there, because I think that is again a place where
not a lot of stuff.
Not many people, there are a lot of artists there because there's so many colleges over there. So I'm sure there are a lot of artists. It's just that nobody wants to travel all the way to the city to come and see or to do an open mic, whatever. So we thought, let's bring it to them,
right?
And do this thing there. We also do another open mic in terms of poetry, storytelling, and spoken word.
Right.
So we're planning that out for November as well. We collaborate with this group called Mockingbirds, who are a poetry-centric group, and we work with them to host this open mic in terms of poetry, because that is also another art form that is not much in Chennai. You don't see too many this thing, but at the same time, if you look on Instagram, like probably 30 to 40% of your friends are poets, or they write poetry and put it up on their Instagram page. So I'm just trying to get them out of doing it on Instagram and coming and performing it live for somebody else. So to try and we try to bring them through this open mic, and now we're slowly also trying to find another venue where we're going to do exclusive only poetry, spoken word, and storytelling nights. So there won't be anything else other than these three things. So we're in talks with another venue to do this.
Right.
So yeah.
Good luck with that, man.
Yes,
thank you. And so again, final plugins. Follow House of Tea official on Instagram and in real life.
Yes.
And also
more
Offstage.
in real life. Come for the show.
Yes, this
because
has been
it's a live art form.
live art form. Yes, definitely. This has been Talking Offstage with the Tom of Don Bosco fame. One final shout out to Don Bosco. And this is Talking Offstage. Check us out every Friday. We have new episodes dropping. Follow Offstage official. And this is
these guys too.
Yes, codename
Soda. Yes, codename Soda, Friendly
Jalil,
and
dedicated _randomness.
Dedicated _randomness because we keep searching, don't we?
That's
where we cut it. Cut this. End on a high.
Yes, over.